Well, hello again. This is a continuation of my pet mobility device project. Here I am building the remote control for the PMD. There are no moving parts here. It is just a board, but I think the debugging technique could be of interest. For a start, I want to get the basic communications between the remote control and the PMD right. So I built this prototype with limited functions. The key component here is the Arduino Nano 33 IoT, which is Wi-Fi enabled. The display is mainly for live debugging during the test. It is there to show the operation mode, which can be forward or reverse, and the direction. Without the screen, I wouldn't be able to tell if I actually pressed a button or used the joystick. On this page is the loop section of my firmware. Upon entering the loop, X and Y axis information are read from the joystick and a new UDP packet is initialized. I use the conditional if to read button status and perform respective actions. If no buttons were pushed, or if there's no instruction change, then the program enters the else routine where the X, Y axis are transformed into F, B, R, or L. At the end of each loop, the UDP packet is closed and transmitted. Following that are my loop debugging messages. This 30 seconds video shows my initial firmware and how I use the screen for debugging. Essentially, this shows the screen, buttons, and joysticks are working, but I have a problem with the messages being displayed. There are many little things to improve, and coming up next, I will break it down into screenshots for step-by-step analysis. Upon power up, the remote control goes into the setup routine, which initializes the screen and attempts to connect to Wi-Fi. When it is connected, the status is reported on screen. Up to this point, it is working great. And when it goes into the loop, where at the end of each loop, the X and Y axis of the joystick is reported, and this obscures the initial message. At least, this tells us the loop and joystick is working. So we can remove these loop test messages in the next firmware update. The remote control starts with the gear in neutral. Pushing the yellow or blue button set the gear to forward or reverse. Pushing the joysticks set the direction of the travel as F for forward, B for backward, R for right, and L for left. So F, B, R, or L is then transmitted through Wi-Fi to the vehicle. That is the intent. Eventually, we will get to that, but for now, I am just using the screen to debug my firmware for the buttons and joystick. As you can see, when I push the yellow button, the first messages are cleared, and now the top of reverse can be seen above the running text of X and Y axis. That is the second problem to fix. Although the screen is not working right, I push the other buttons anyway and try the joystick. Now you can see the numbers are changing. That means the functions are working correctly, but it's kind of hard to tell what the jumping numbers mean. So the third item is to translate the numbers into action that I want from the joystick and display that. When the remote control is connected to the PC via USB cable, you can review debugging messages with the serial monitor that is part of the Arduino GUI. In my case, adding the on-device screen works better for me when it will be tested in the field. In addition to the screen display problems, I also want to reduce the clutter of information that is flooding the serial monitor as shown here. Now we can review the debug code. The arrows point to pieces of code that have been added to fix those problems that were identified earlier. Mainly, a child variable named dir was added for additional if condition control. By using the dir variable in the if conditional routine, the screen and serial monitor will now update only when there is a new instruction. The video shows a remote control debugging screen that is displaying the correct and useful messages. Now that the loop debugging tags are removed, the serial monitor is also displaying messages that are useful. This concludes the remote control prototype for the PMD project. Let me know if you found the debugging techniques useful. Write to me on the email listed at the end of this video. Subscribe to my channel and stay tuned for the next installment of my working towards pet mobility device for my kitty cats. Until the next time, ta-da.